This is the third installment in the real top 10 albums that changed my life. Last time we talked about the album Issues by Korn, and we are continuing on here with Marilyn Manson's Mechanical Animals. This beauty right here. I've got it all, like, just discombobulated and whatever right now. Yeah. So, where do we start? This album came out in 1998. I heard it in 1999. Funny thing, I guess we'll start off with first, is that, like, the album here, I just bought last year. It is the only Marilyn Manson album that I didn't own prior. I had a burned CD, a burned copy of it, that I still have in the CD binder back here, but I didn't actually have, like, the legit copy. I had every other Manson album. Like, I went and bought the old ones that came out before I got into him. Like, I had Smells Like Children. I had Portrait of an American Family. Obviously, Antichrist Superstar as well, before this album, in the triptych. So I had all of those. And then every album that came out after. But this is the one that, like, as a studio album, because I never did pick up the last Tour on Earth. However, it's really good. I enjoy it. As far as live albums go. But yeah, so this one I just didn't have, and we'll get into why in a bit. But yeah, this is what we're talking about today. This is the third one. I kind of alluded to this album when I was talking about Issues by Korn, and you'll see why if you watch that video, then you'll get it. But yes, where do we go right now? Yeah, it came out in '98. I listened to it in about 1999. I was in Mississauga over the summer visiting my father. There was 3 years in a row that I did that, and '99 was one of those years. So I was like, like 13-ish, so 14? I don't really know how old I was supposed to be then. Yeah. Anyway, so that summer, what I remember doing a lot of, we lived, like I said, in Mississauga, only a couple blocks away from Square One, which is a mall there, and the public library. So I, the dork that I was, went to the library all the time. I got a bunch of books out that I never read, but I got a lot of music out that I did listen to. So they had, like, really new CDs, obviously. I mean, they had this. That's where I got it. They had Marilyn Manson's Mechanical Animals, and I was like, whoa. They have, like, crazy CDs here. So I got it. And I guess before this, I don't really know how familiar with Marilyn Manson I was. There was some magazines I believe I started reading before this, which was Circus and Hit Parader, music magazines, and I was familiar with the concept of Marilyn Manson to a degree, because there's all this, like, rumors, and, like, he does this and he's that, and he's the Antichrist and whatever else. And I don't know how much I really knew before this. The only song I probably would have heard is The Beautiful People, which was on Big Shiny Tunes 2. I didn't even have that CD, but it was on there, and I remember people were jamming out to it. So that's probably the only song I heard, I think. I didn't own any of his music before this album. I had barely heard any. I'm trying to think, and I can't think if there is another album that I would have heard or not, or another song, I would have heard. I really don't think there was. And again, because this is a long time ago, my memory fails me as to exactly why I decided that I needed to pick that album out to listen to. The cover was, like, real intriguing, obviously, and I don't really know what else kind of went into it. Like, it's so long ago, I don't remember. But like I said, I might have seen images of him. Read maybe some interviews in music magazines, heard some music, and was like, whoa. Probably also knew that, like, oh, this is, like, the music of the rebel. This is, like, I'm not supposed to listen to this, or, like, this is really, like, bad. One of the things, which I won't be able to talk about in this whole, like, I'm reviewing this album, and this isn't the album I would talk about if I were going to say his music was dangerous, because I would probably talk about Antichrist Superstar, maybe Hollywood, but definitely Antichrist Superstar, for sure, as being like, this was an era of music, an era of time where I still felt like music was dangerous. and I'll probably make a whole other video about that. But I think there was that feeling there too that maybe I was like, oh, like this is not what I'm supposed to do, so let's do it. But yeah, I can't remember all the reasons why I decided I'm going to go to the library. And, well, I went to the library, I was looking at all the CDs. I remember I got, like, Smash Mouth's Fush You Mang there as well. And, like, a Run DMC and, like, Limp Bizkit. I don't remember what else, honestly, right now, but I know there was more. There had to have been more that I got out there that I still probably listen to. But none as significant as this. So, very significant in my life. If you had watched some of the previous videos, I mentioned, like, when I talked about Michael Jackson's Dangerous, I didn't really have to re-listen to that album. I know it very, very well. When I talked about Korn's Issues, I did have to re-listen to that album before I made the video, because although it was very significant in that time, it was like a real catalyst for things and showed me this different side of music that I didn't even know existed. But quickly after that, I got albums, you know, like this, and I just, my world exploded with more and more albums and more heavy music, dark music and stuff. So I kind of quickly left that behind, but for a period of time it was very significant. And I hadn't listened to it in years and years and years and years. When I talked about Michael Jackson's Dangerous, I listened to those songs frequently enough, but I also just remember, for the most part, how the album went. This is kind of like neither of those things and both of those things. I did not have to listen to this again before making this video, because I know it very, 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 very well. And it is not because I listen to it or listen to songs off of it frequently. I do not. Not at all, which we'll get into reasons why shortly. But I did not have to listen to it again. I'm very, very, very familiar. And, you know, going through, just trying to making some notes about making this video, making notes about the album and stuff that I'm going to refer to every once in a while, it definitely started to bring things back, and I don't want to listen to it, or at least the majority of it I don't want to listen to, or at least half of it, for sure, because it definitely brings back some stuff that I don't want. So if you if you're watching these in order and you saw the one about Issues, Korn's Issues, then this came kind of right after that. I'm not doing all these videos in chronological order of, like, when they came out, but kind of the order of when they came into my life, or when they were significant in my life. So right now we're still in my tweens, I guess, because like I said, this came out in '99. Sorry, in '98, but I got it in '99. That's when I first, like, listened to it, which was around the time that I first listened to that Korn album as well. In my notes here it says 99 or 2000, because I wasn't 100% sure when I got into this album, what year it was when I went to Toronto that I listened to it. I'm pretty sure it's 99, but it might be 2000. Anyway, so this was a time in my life where things were not good. You know, shortly, a couple years before that, I had moved to Outlook. It was not a great place for me. Obviously, things are happening with, like, adolescence and puberty and, like, a lot of changes besides moving. Getting remarried. Like, there's a lot of personal stuff that's going on, and I was in a very dark place. And like I talked about it's in the conversation playlist, The Power of Music. When I talked about there, like, yeah, music is this great, amazing ability to, like, sometimes lift you up from a place, but it also can alter your mood, or besides, like, altering, I guess, your mood to bring you out of a place or put you into a place. That's the thing, is like, it can just keep you in a place. Like, music is very powerful for me for making art and other things, because it can put me into a place. And, which is why I don't want to listen to this album again right now before doing this. I don't need, like, I would have if I needed to, but I definitely remember the album very well, so I didn't need to, thankfully. Because this album has such strength in it that it can definitely put me back in a dark place, in a depressed state, I would say. And probably not for long term, right? But it's still not a place I like to be. I don't like to be sad, and I talked about that in a conversation recently too, about sitting in sadness, because I don't really know how to do that properly, never have. And during this period of my life, I was very, very sad and depressed consistently for years, and I think that albums like this, especially this one, kept me there. They really fed that sadness, and I don't think in a good way. Like, it didn't, like, it wasn't like helping me be sad and getting the sadness over with and then moving on. I mean, like, yeah, I just need to be sad right now. It was just like, no, that's just me as a person all the time. So, I want to get right into it. I feel like this album kind of goes into, like, there's 3 sections of this album for me, with the songs, and one of them there's just some rockers on here. Then there's like this section, the half of the album to me is incredibly depressing and very, very low depressing. Not even mid-tempo stuff, just like very slow, drawn out, depressing. And then there's this middle ground where there's these more up-tempo songs that start to embrace some subject matter that is darker, or darker is not even the right word. Just talk about more serious subject matter, I guess. There's some criticisms in there and stuff as well. Whereas in like these rocker songs, I don't feel like they're that serious. And so I guess we'll start there. Rock is Dead, Dope Show, and I Don't Like the Drugs, But the Drugs Like Me. Those I feel like are a lot lighter, and they're just like songs to rock out to. I could listen to those songs right now, and I wouldn't be bothered. They're very neutral, I feel. So those, ooh, my bad. So those are those songs. There's other ones that kind of fit into the spaces between, like New Model Number 15 and User Friendly are both, I think, I don't want to say, New Model Number 15 is really critical. And User Friendly is definitely more personal, I feel, and gets to kind of a darker place, but also critical. But they're both like more like upbeat songs, I guess. And then I Want to Disappear and Post-Human are kind of definitely more getting into that depressing place, but the musicality or the instrumentation, the song structures are definitely way more accessible and like radio friendly in a way. Like they're not super. I mean, they're not hard songs. They're not like crazy extreme metal songs. Like when I talk about accessibility, but they're also not like super sad and depressing in their instrumentation at all. At least not. I don't feel that way. I feel like that complements the concepts and the lyrics very, very well. But they're very middle ground where we start to explore some stuff. Even like I Want to Disappear, it just approaches that subject in a lighter way, I feel, than in this really depressing way that the other songs get into. So those songs, like New Model Number 15 and User Friendly, I probably wouldn't listen to because I feel like they still would put me in a weird place. I Want to Disappear and Post-Human I probably could listen to still, and they wouldn't really disrupt me that much, but I would definitely start thinking and having some feelings and stuff. I don't think they would lead anywhere dangerous or anything like that. I don't think the rest of the album would either, because the place I'm in, it just isn't going to do that, but it isn't going to be fun necessarily either. So that leaves the other half of the album. I mean, we ran through those songs really quick, and I guess there's more I could say there, but I mean, like I said, those first 3 songs in that one box of just like rocker songs, Rock is Dead, The Dope Show, and I Don't Like the Drugs, But the Drugs Like Me just seem like fun rock songs. That's how they come off to me. It's just like fun rock songs, jam out. They're good songs. Every song on this album to me is good. They're super good. And then those kind of, that transition, I guess, and this has nothing to do with the way that they're tracked on the album, because they're not tracked like this at all. They kind of like jump around a bit. I'm pretty sure that User Friendly and New Model Number 15 are back to back. But anyway. But yeah, so those 2 songs, Post-Human and I Want to Disappear, like I said, they fit into this middle ground for me where they're not super depressing. They engage you in some subject matter and some concepts, and yeah, we get into some stuff there, I guess. And they're, like I said, I can still probably listen to them. They're not radio. When I said radio friendly, I just meant instrumentation of them. Instrumentally, they're more accessible in that nature, but lyrically, not so much. Especially User Friendly and New Model Number 15. I feel like they're more scathing criticisms of people, definitely, and types of people. Whereas the other 2 are more introspective, like I Want to Disappear and Post-Human, for sure. I mean, Post-Human's a little more, I think, commentary on not just like. Not necessarily an internal dialogue that's going on and being expressed, but some other commentary going on there as well. So to get into this other part, so this is the part where I'm like, it just gets really, really, really heavy. I mean, you start off the album. Let me just list these songs first. I mean, we have great big, like the songs that fit into this box of like depression, which to me, because it's half of the album, to me it puts a stain, like a, that makes it sound bad. But it puts a stain on the whole album as being like, this is a very depressing album, because half of it really, really, really is. So, Great Big White World, Coma White, Fundamentally Loathsome, The Last Day on Earth, Disassociative, Mechanical Animals, the title track. I feel like I'm missing something. The Speed of Pain. How could I forget about The Speed of Pain? Jeez. But those are those songs that fit into this box for me of just like, these are the most depressing songs ever. I mean, we start off the album with Great Big White World, and it's just like I mentioned I know this album at the back of my hand, but it's like, as soon as I start, like if I start the song in my head, then I can get through all of it. But for the sake of time and not being as awkward, yeah, that's what it is. So lyrically, I mean, the very beginning of the album, we start off kind of slow, and it's not as slow as other songs, but it feels low, like the mood, like in space the stars are no nearer, they just glitter like a morgue. First, right out of the gate, that's where we're at. We do have a lot of, I feel like this album as a whole has a lot of like space imagery, for a lot of reasons that we'll get into here right away. There's also like emphasis, I think, sometimes on color, because this comes up again later on in what song is it that this comes up again? In Disassociative. I mean, we've got the song "The Last Day on Earth," like. Yeah, but I mean, this is how the album starts out, is by saying, like, we start out with that imagery of being in space, about how the stars are no near, and we talk about how they just glitter like a morgue. And so it's like, stars are dead, we're talking about death, we're talking about space, which in this aspect is not like this fun thing that we aspire to get to space and explore, and it's exciting. No, this is really about void, and, I mean, the song's a Great Big White World. And he talks later on as well, like about the planet being very gray, and I mean, we're talking about void. I really think this album expresses void so well, and that is just an interesting place to be, a real horrible place to be, I guess, feeling void and feeling like nothing, and that comes up a bunch. So like, yeah, just immediately we're there, and I mean, like, there's. I'm not attached to your world, nothing heals, nothing grows. Again, just like stagnation and not feeling like you're progressing. You're just in this horrible place. I'm trying to think of what other lyrics from there. This album is so poetic. That's the one thing. Out of every Manson album, to me, this is the most poetic album. Beautiful, beautiful imagery, powerful imagery. Really struck me then, and it still does now. Just like, and hell was so cold, all the vases are so broken, and the roses tear our hands all open. Like, and obviously the vocal delivery and the instrumentation and everything else plays a huge role, and it definitely is perfect and coincides with the lyrics and the concepts and stuff. But I mean, just lyrically, just so poetic. Yeah. Again, in this song, because it's a great big white world and we are drained of our colors. We used to love ourselves, we used to love one another, blah, 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 blah. But, I mean, I guess we could go to, like, the album art, too, which isn't something that I really thought of talking about. But, I mean, we're talking about void, we're talking about a great big white world, we're talking about the world being drained of color, or we're drained of our colors. Later on, we talk about the world being gray. I mean, like, he's got his stark red hair here as contrast, right? But, I mean, he's so white. The disc image, which is, coma white and supposed to resemble a pill, which we'll kind of get back to later as well. But I mean, like, this just, I'm really, this is not a good segue, but I mean, like, from where we were, I know this album was very inspired by Bowie. I, still to this day, am not familiar. As I was saying, before I got that phone call and my battery died, like, simultaneously, that I know that Manson has said that this album has been pretty influenced by David Bowie. In all the regards, I don't remember. I don't know if the space theme kind of plays into that and whatever. I think some of the costume and the art direction in the album, for sure, like in the album art, like in the insert, as well as, you know, the, well, I've got it right here, like this is very, very Bowie. And I think, obviously, some of the tour costume design and stuff like that. The whole album cycle. I'm sure that some of the visual art definitely was Bowie inspired. As for the space theme and stuff, I'm not really sure because I am not very familiar with David Bowie's material as much as I should be. And I only say that because, I mean, besides Manson, like Trent Reznor has had so much, you know, inspiration from David Bowie. I feel like the people that I draw inspiration from, it's always good to like go back and see where they drew inspiration from and get familiar with those people as well. David Bowie's someone I really haven't explored that much. And recently, like before making this, I've thought to myself, I think it's kind of time to do that work and kind of get into it because he's not easy for me to get into. I've tried a couple times before and it's like, yeah, I'm not really getting it. But also depending on the album that I tried. Anyway, so yeah. Again, I don't remember all I don't remember what I read however long ago or watched that talked about how a lot of this album was inspired by Bowie and certain albums and periods of time in his catalog. But that's definitely there for sure. Yeah, that's what we were doing. We were talking about Great Big White World and some of the imagery and stuff there and how poetic the album is and just beautiful, delicious wordplay and diction. That this album is so rich with poetry. It's amazing. But like I said, okay, anyway, we're starting off like that's how we start off this album with that song, Great Big White World. I think that, you know, if there's any song you're going to listen to off here, I may as well just start there because that really sets a tone for the album. There's songs that go like I said, just those rocker songs that happen, and then there's songs that bring us really down low. But I feel like this is definitely setting the right tone for what the album would feel like as a whole, at least to me. You know, we kind of, I think that sense of void is so present on the album and happens so much. And again, the space thing, death in and of itself is not necessarily like, I don't know, there's some albums that have more talk about death than other ones. Like some albums just use death as a symbol, just like a symbol for sex or a symbol for something else. But this is filled with, I don't know, like there's talk of suicide, just even the word like Suicide King in Mechanical Animals, like I'm just a boy playing the Suicide King. But I mean, there's a lot of self-destructive behavior that's not necessarily introspective, where Manson's talking about his own destructive behavior all the time, but just about other people as well. Their self-destructive behavior, negative coping mechanisms, as well as just feelings that people have of being depressed, and they are depicted as void, even in their physicality, like Coma White. I mean, if I can bring up the lyrics here for you, because right now it's difficult in the moment to just like bring it up for myself. There's something cold and blank behind her smile. That's how that song starts. It's a beautiful song. It's depressing as all hell, though. It's just like there's so much. I mean, The Last Day on Earth is here, Fundamentally Loathsome, The Speed of Pain. All these songs, I think Mechanical Animals out of this whole section is kind of different. So maybe we'll talk about that for a bit because I feel like it focuses on more of like a relationship, like a romantic relationship. And that was one of those songs that, too, this is a reoccurring theme with these first three kind of albums that we're talking about in this series of the real top 10 albums that changed my life, is that these albums were so good at making you feel something. And at that point in my life, there were feelings that I didn't have my own experiences with that I couldn't necessarily even understand or comprehend because I didn't have the experiences attached to them. But like Mechanical Animals, the title track, like that, I definitely felt something in there that it made me feel bad, like in the sense of a romantic relationship that I didn't necessarily have at that point, but it felt like so within me. It's weird, but I mean, just lines about like not being the one for you. Like, I'll never be the one for you. I'll never save the world from you. Um, They'll never be anything to you at all. That's like part of the chorus, and it's just like, I mean, there's other stuff in there where it talks about this play between these two romantically involved people, I guess, and yeah, it's just. Again, it did so well at making me feel something. It didn't feel good, but I mean, it made me feel something strong regardless, without me needing to have that own experience in my life to attach to it. But I feel like the other songs in this half of the album don't necessarily focus on romantic relationships that much, not as explicitly. And they all do a very good job of this blank void, using space imagery, using the thing with Great Big White World, talking about we are drained of our colors. I mentioned this would come up again, and it does in Disassociative. I can tell you what they say in Space, that our Earth is too gray. I mean, again, like the first lines of so many of these songs are just like, it just immediately, like, it's just beautifully written. It just takes you to that place where you need to go immediately. And just, yeah, again, talking about how the Earth is too gray. When the spirit is so digital, the body acts this way. This world is killing me. That world is killing me. And again, like, I can never get out of here. I don't want to just float in fear. A dead astronaut in space. Like, that imagery, that scenario is just so powerful. Just like thinking of that, like how terrified you would be. And it's not because like. It's not like a horror movie type of, or a cliche horror movie where it's like, oh, this monster's gonna get you, or the demon's gonna get you, or a ghost, or like whatever, like some terrifying thing. It is the absence of things, right? It is almost the absence of feeling, floating in space. Like, and I mean, and that's the thing too. I mean, it's like, a dead astronaut in space. I can never get out of here. I don't want to just float in fear. A dead astronaut in space. Like that's, yeah. That's just so amazingly powerful to me. And again, we're bringing in the space thing again. We're bringing in how the Earth and ourselves are drained of color and gray or white and blank. Again, we draw that back to like Coma White too. Just the depiction of this what I imagine to be a young woman's face of just like, right, like cold and blank behind her smile. Like, it's just, yeah. And the song, the instrumentation on that song too, is again so depressing, so slow, and I wish I had better words for this, but I haven't listened to it. I guess that's the one thing. That's another reason I should have listened to it, because even though I remember it in my head, like, how do I describe that? Would have been more visceral if I was listening to it and then could kind of describe the instrumentation better, but. Yeah, it's. I really don't know how to explain it. It's like engaging in this poetic. It's immediately sad. Like the strings immediately are just like. The composition just. I don't know how to explain it. You just gotta listen to it. Again, The Last Day on Earth kind of continues in this theme as well. Oh man. Again, this emptiness, I'm so empty here without you. I know they want me dead. I know it's the last day on Earth. We'll be together while the planet dies. If there's any love song on here, I guess this is it, right? But it's also like, oh, we're together in death, but it's not really celebratory. It's still depressing, and even though it doesn't necessarily talk about, there's almost like this acceptance, but not a happy one. I don't want to talk about every single track. I mean, I already skipped like a bunch, but even this half of them, I don't necessarily want to go through them all. But The Speed of Pain, Fundamentally Loathsome, like, they add to that feeling too of just. It's. Sometimes there's almost a hint of desperation, like in Fundamentally Loathsome, like, I hope we die holding hands. And then later in The Last Day on Earth, it talks about, dying holding hands, right? But it's not the way that it's expressed is so pale. It is the palest form of desperation that there could possibly be. I wouldn't. That's why I'm like, I have a hard time even saying it is desperation that's being expressed sometimes. but like there's a need to be pain free. There's a need to not want to feel pain anymore, and I think maybe that's why this absence of feeling and this void and blank and paleness and all those, like, all that is expressed in the album so much, because I mean we talk about not wanting to feel pain anymore, not wanting to exist in such a way that you would feel that. And one solution is dying, to not feel anything, and the other solution is to not feel anything at all, really. Um, I mean, there's more solutions than that, right? But I mean, like, to get to such a space where you feel so much pain in whatever regard, like this, that you would rather feel nothing, but also that doesn't feel good either. Um, yeah, I just think this album is amazing, and super powerful. Again, why I haven't like re-listened to it, and whatever, because it's very challenging for me. Going through this though and looking at the lyrics and talking about it, it makes me want to explore it again now. Um, like I said, this album during my teens like really fed my depression and didn't really help me get out of it. I felt so connected with it, that's why, like, you know, I needed it right away. Like when I went to Toronto and I got that, I borrowed it from the library, and then when I got home I was like, I need this album, like I need my friend to burn me this album right now, because I couldn't afford to buy it right away. And so I had it, and then whenever I had money, I spent that money on a different album or something instead, rather than buying the physical, like the legit album. And like I said, I still have the burned copy in there, and I've only had this less than a year. But I needed it. I felt so connected to it. I just needed it as soon as I got it. I remember that feeling. I remember that feeling of returning the CD and being like, I need this. I need this in my life. And at that moment, it's hard to say, like, I really did need that. I connected with it. I don't know that it did positive things for me, other than introduce me to Marilyn Manson. That was really my first introduction. And then after that, in a way, I'm glad that there's no other album like that from him. There's other songs every once in a while that get depressing, but to me, not many. The majority of any depressing song in his whole catalog is on this album, and it's, again, very poetic and it's artistic and beautiful, and it expresses things so well. Like I said, that absence, that, I mean, it expresses pain and expresses the absence of pain just as well. That how you can feel pain through absence of feeling, if that makes sense. Again, this it just does beautifully. It does amazing things, and like part of me wants to explore it now. In my in my age, since then, like, it's been a long time since I've really connected with it at the other level, and I'm definitely not in the same space I was then. So I feel safer to try and connect with it again, but also dangerous in a way, because I'm like, that's, I don't know. Like, it's hard. It'd be difficult to do, I think. I wouldn't say safely, but I mean, like, nothing's gonna happen. It's just like, I don't want to feel sad, and it's gonna make me feel sad. But looking through this and looking at the lyrics and stuff again, I'm like, wow, like, I didn't appreciate it as much then as I do now. Like, I appreciated it then, but like, I still just find the diction so beautiful, and just how well he was able to use these different themes to express stuff. Like I said, there's things that he did so well at expressing things that it went over my head and I still felt it. That's how good it was. Because like the stuff about space, like I said, I pointed out that one line of like, I don't want to float in fear, a dead astronaut in space. Like, I understood it without fully comprehending, like, oh, space is like void, like there's nothing there for the most part. Like, this is not about exploration and excitement and whatever, and that's usually where you think of an astronaut or think about being in space. And this is not that at all. This is floating in space and dying there, and the loneliness you would feel, and the absence of anything. You'd be an alien in that environment too, right? Like, it's so rich. Like, this album is just so rich, full of stuff that I can't even talk about it properly. I would suggest, again, wrapping this up, that you listen to Great Big White World. That definitely sets a tone for the album. It's difficult for me to listen to because I have so much attachment to it. I don't think I could get back, like, I know that I wouldn't bring me back to the place I was in my teens, but that's how it feels. it feels really difficult to appreciate this album years later on a different level because I'm so emotionally tied to it with my memories of that time that were so there's music still brings me back there in a very real place that's not necessarily healthy for me. Um, yeah. Again, it's on this list because it was so powerful. It How does it change my life? I guess I mean like it really I feel like it kept me in that space of depression. It really held me down there. It's a beautiful album. It's a good album. It doesn't make me. I don't resent it at all. I don't think it helped. I don't think it helped heal me. I don't think it helped bring me out of that. I don't resent it for the fact that it kept me there, but I feel like it really aided in keeping me in that space. I just kept feeding that depression with this album. That's just it's something else. Like it's like I said. I mean, there's other songs on the album that are not depressing, but the ones that are so low, so low.